Okay, let's see. All right, it says it's live. Becky, do you see that it's live?
It doesn't say any. Oh, there. Now it does. Okay.
Okay,
Because it
good.
had set off. Now it's live. We're good.
Okay, so Kimberly, did you just hear Becky? Could you hear her?
I can hear her. It's a little quieter, but I can hear her.
Okay, I'm going to move you closer. All right, so let's do this.
All right.
To let me in and saying please wait.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that it's just my slow stream.
All right, excellent. Well, we'll give it a shot. So we are supposed to just go through the simulated therapy session and talk about how the therapist integrated the things that we've been learning into his therapy session. That's what I understood the instructions to be.
Right.
Okay. So
did everybody get a chance?
Yeah. Did you look at it?
I did. I went through it, and I think I did get kind of an idea of what the similarities were between that and that lesson or chapter 6.
Right. Right. So can I ask you guys a question just to get it out of my head? Do you think that the family was a real family, or were they students?
I was wondering the same thing.
Imagine letting yourself be filmed. That would be really hard to do.
I agree. I agree. And to me, they all looked too close in age. The parents of young adult children.
Right.
But they looked so much alike. And the conversation coming every time the mom gave information, it's like, wow, that sounds just like something a mom would say. I just don't know if they were really good students or if it really was a family and the mom and dad just look young, which is totally okay.
I have heard that they'll give them free therapy sessions if they'll allow that.
Wow, they could definitely be.
But
okay.
That would be a hard thing to do.
I agree. Because, being in a therapy session, I don't know if you've ever done that, but you're kind of vulnerable feeling. I went in one time for some therapy, some counseling, and, I really had some doors up and some walls, and I didn't really want to let the other person in. I can't imagine taking my whole family and then saying, here's all the cameras, because this was a professional thing. They did a really good job with the filming, so I know there was more than one person, and I don't know. It was good. But I did enjoy seeing a lot of what we have been learning about put to use. But I'm an older mom. I have kids in their 30s, and a lot of what the therapist was talking to them about, I'm thinking, man, I use this type of stuff all the time with my kids. Or I have used it, but that's kind of the joy of this particular, the information we've been learning about. It's not brain surgery. A lot of it's common sense, especially when the gospel's behind it and you have the benefits and the blessings of the gospel. So not to be too preachy, but it's like, wow, this really isn't that hard if we just pay attention.
Right. It made sense. It did make sense. And he did a good job. I just thought he did a good job trying to pull them out, especially the teenage boy. I thought, I don't know if he's going to say anything, but he did. He did a good job of relating to him enough that I think it did pull him out a little bit, and he was able to express his feelings. It was fascinating to watch in action.
I agree. I agree. And I had taken some notes, nothing extravagant, but I did put that, he was doing a lot of pulling. And he seemed to be really careful to not push. Every time he was rephrasing, he took a lot of care to make sure that it was their words. He's like, now, if I understand you right, this is what you're saying. Or,
tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if this isn't quite what I heard. And, I'm the type, and you'll probably catch it here before we're done chatting. Once I'm comfortable, I just word vomit. I just start going and talk. But those walls have to come down first. And so he, you know, this family, you could tell when they came in, whether they were real or simulated, you know, they weren't there because they were sitting around thinking, hey, let's go do this. You know, they were there because somebody wanted it more than another. But the fact that the four of them were there was good because it, you know, at least they all went. And I don't know, he did a good job. He seemed to be super sensitive to that exact fact that they weren't all necessarily there of their own fruition, and still was able to treat them as individuals, even though he was doing a family session.
Yep.
Well, let's see here. They have the questions that 1 through 4.
Yeah.
Questions that we were supposed to go over here.
Yeah.
You guys see that?
So take turns talking about the points you identified, both the overt references and the more subtle ones. Okay. So if we hit that, if we just go through that, some of the points that we identified. Let's see here. So in chapter 6, there were some tables that kind of listed some things. And so the first thing in those tables in chapter 6 on table 6.1 was making meaning out of adversity. And he, you know, we don't actually know what the real issues were with this family, but what, you know, the identified patient was the brother or the son. And well, actually, that's what I think. You know, the family kind of viewed him as the reason that they were there. However, their individual ideas about him varied. You know, the dad was like, oh, he's just a young man. He's just kind of sowing his oats, and I'm not as worried about him as mom is. And then sister seemed to be even more worried. But so we don't actually know if there was serious adversity causing the boy to act out, but for the family himself, he definitely was the reason. You know, even though we can probably start peeling back the onion and find that mom and dad need to communicate better. You know, if mom and dad could communicate better, maybe the issues with the son wouldn't have been so drastic for mom. But you know, the therapist was able to, he was kind of able to, in my opinion, roll back and make what Jimmy was doing not really so bad. The fact that he was staying out all night with his friends and skateboarding, which mom didn't like, the therapist was kind of able to make Jimmy's actions not criminal, which I think is what mom was, you know, criminal is kind of a harsh word, but mom's thinking the worst. Right. So I thought he did a really good job with that, and still letting Jimmy, identifying with Jimmy as, you know, hey, you are the right age to be doing this. This isn't something out of sorts, but, you know, you gotta think your mom here. So I don't know. I just kind of go ahead.
I was just gonna say he normalized it, like it says.
Yeah, he did. He made it like, hey, this isn't so bad. The next thing is having a positive outlook. And one of the bullet points says affirms strengths and builds on potential. And I think that's kind of follows right along with him normalizing that, you know, this really isn't a weird thing to do. I thought it was interesting when he asked the mom and dad to make a date. You know, why don't you guys make a date? You know, when was the last time you went out? And I was thinking about that for my own self. You know, once our kids grew and we're down to just one in the house, but she's 12 years younger than our next baby. So she's been an only child with us for a long time. But my husband and I getting dressed up and going out on a date or going out with this specific reason to just date really is gone. You know, we go to Home Depot to buy parts for the faucet, and that's a date because we're alone together. And so when the therapist asked mom and dad to kind of set aside some time to go be together. Interesting. Because those needs don't really go away. We just kind of shift them around. You know, when you're a young mom or you've got young children at home, it's different. You know, your date time is different. And so I thought it was interesting how the therapist picked up on that pretty quick, that mom and dad need to kind of regroup and get a baseline.
Right. They're not on the same page. One is super worried and taking on all the worry, and the dad's just not taking on any of it. You know,
right.
Or at least he's not able to express it because her feelings are so over the top.
Right.
To express, you know, and then they're shutting down. And so,
right.
I remember back when they were talking about, or maybe it was a different class about overload. You know, when you just have too much emotion and everything, it just shuts people down.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's kind of what it seemed like. I can't remember the name they used, but.
It's coming to me. It's not overload. It's flooding. No, and I can see that even, you know, in my own relationship, I definitely tend to worry more and worry quicker. And sometimes that in itself is where the frustration comes from for my husband. It's not that I'm upset about something. It's the extent that I go to. You know, we had a bird fly through the grill of our car the day before he left. So that meant I was going to have to deal with fixing the grill on our not very old car. And I was like totally freaked out. Not like I can't do it, but oh my gosh, I have to do it. And he was just like, chill. It's going to get fixed when it gets fixed. Just don't worry. And so my frustration is like, why aren't you agitated about this? Why doesn't this bother you? Well, because really at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. But the therapist was able to make this all positive. And I think even maybe walk mom down off the ledge a little in her anxiety about it.
Yep.
Because this is not letting me on, so still saying, please wait. Do you think it would help if I go back and it says on the settings I can disable HD? Would that speed my bandwidth up a little, do you know? It's just video quality.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I wonder if I click this button, if it will help us get on here. Well, it's okay. This is working. This is what I feel.
Okay.
We'll keep trying here. But
okay.
Anyway, well, okay, so should I go over let's see, what I was thinking on some of these points, or should we just go like you're doing, just go through?
No, feel free. Feel free. What?
Well, I was thinking maybe you were doing kind of the item by item. That might work good too, and we can just kind of put in what we thought on that item, how they work with it.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Becky, does this work for you to keep notes? Does it?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Making meaning out of adversity, positive outlook. So then the next bullet point was transcendence and spirituality.
That doesn't come up too much. He did bring it up once.
Right.
Remember, he brought up a higher being or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember in what context. Can you remember why he brought that up? Oh, he was saying how it helps. That they have help. They're not alone. They do have help.
Right. Right. And so, you know, here we all attend LDS school. We can assume that the therapist probably had ties to the LDS community. There's a good chance the family has the same belief values, but none of that came up, which is important, you know, because we certainly don't want to push our belief values onto somebody, nor do we want to discredit theirs. And that's what, you know, I think that's super important. Matter of fact, this, the case study that we had to do about Zach's story, that's this class, right?
Yeah, that's the
you know, they had a great faith base, and it's no different than ours. And so when you're talking about help and, you know, who can they rely on and who do they believe in? We don't want to discredit that somebody else may have a different faith system than we do, but it still is good for them. And he did a good job, I think, with just not making a big deal about faith, but reminding them that they're, if you believe, there are higher beings to help you.
Right.
So I think that was kind of neat to see it not kind of be overloaded, but yet to give the family that option. Because I bet had they wanted to go there, he could have taken them down a path very easily. Like he set it up very nicely to talk about a greater spiritual belief, but it wasn't something that was his main focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you saw in the background. Okay.
Sorry, Becky, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know if you saw in the background, but there was a picture of Moroni burying the plates or something similar on a painting in his office. So you could tell he was LDS.
Yeah.
I noticed that too. Yeah.
So yeah, that was impressive that he didn't push his beliefs on. He kept them separate to himself. Yeah.
Well, and I wonder even, I was thinking a great deal about this. So let's say he's LDS and his clients are LDS. Even given that, as a therapist, he still can't talk openly necessarily about his faith, because then you'd be assuming that whoever you were talking to was at the same level of knowledge as you and had the same foundational testimony. And that could be wrong also. I'm sure legally it would be wrong.
Yeah. Or you're assuming that they're even active in the church. They could be inactive.
Right. So I thought that was great. It was a great way to show us as an outsider how easy it is to bring something so vital into the conversation, but not have it take over. Because, oftentimes for me, specifically as a member of the church, when I converse in smaller settings, if I think that you are active or you were raised in the church, I will speak a little bit more freely or more openly than if I think somebody may have no knowledge at all. And I thought it was great the way he just kind of slid that in and gave it as a doorway. And if they didn't take it, it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they didn't much. They didn't really take that.
Not at all. Like not even a nibble. It was just kind of like he just said it and it just goes right on. But that really wasn't why they were there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that was good. Right.
Yeah, so I didn't get much when I was looking at the spiritual part of it. That was kind of an empty.
Yeah.
Notes on that part.
Yeah. Yeah, no notes about what they talked about. The fact that he was able to give them that option was good.
But he did. He put it out there.
Yeah.
And they didn't take it, so he moved on.
Right.
It was pretty subtle.
It was, yeah. So let's see. The next thing on that chart was flexibility, and some of the points are the ability to rebound and adaptive change to meet new challenges, to reorganize, restabilize, continuity, a strong authoritative leadership. So from his perspective, what did you guys think about his flexibility?
That was another one that, I got a lot of different things, but not on flexibility.
Okay. Becky, how about you?
Yeah. I didn't pick up too much on the family necessarily being either really flexible or not really flexible. I don't think that was really touched on very much.
Right.
I did pick up the next bullet point down with the cooperative parenting. That one stuck right out, red flag,
Right.
But yeah, the flexibility I didn't really pick up on very much.
Yeah, I am. From the parents' perspective, from the family's perspective, I didn't get the impression that they were flexible at all. Dad didn't care so much. Mom and sister were a little bit over the top. But if we cut this in half and look at how the therapist was able to use his flexibility in getting to each one of them, I thought it was interesting when he had them change positions. And
wasn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I thought so too, twice.
And I actually was thinking, man, I wonder if I did this, I think I'd want the family sitting in a circle so that they could all see one another.
Right.
I teach the middle Sunday school class for the youth, and I have like 6 or 7 kids any given Sunday. But last week I had the older class as well, so I knew my numbers would double. And when it's just the 6 or 7 of us, they can sit wherever. But when I knew the class was larger, I needed a little bit more structure. And so I had gone in beforehand and set the chairs up in 2 semicircles, and it made it so I could see everybody. And I just thought, when he had them move the first, well, actually it was before he even had them move. I just thought how awkward. The sister's sitting in the middle, and she has to kind of lean around to see her brother, and he couldn't actually see mom and dad's faces. So when the therapist, hey, would you mind? Let's just switch it up a little and talk. I think that kind of threw off the walls that were put up.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the family set it up themselves was really symbolic of where they were at. I mean, the boy was clear off to the side, separated from the rest of them, and the girl right between them.
Right. So I thought that was really interesting.
I like her body too.
A lot, just watching how they come in.
Oh my gosh, and that's what Becky was just saying about her body language.
She kind of had folded, kind of like angry at her brother, had her legs crossed a lot.
Yeah, I was like, man, what a brat. Like, as a mom, I would be so embarrassed.
Yeah.
So, but that just kind of goes to show how inflexible they came in. They came in and they were in their own little boxes, their own little protective walls. But he did a good job kind of helping them relax a little and then moving them around. It's like, okay, look, we need to get someplace with this, and we need to reshift. So I thought that was good. So the next bullet point was connectedness. We talked about mutual support, teamwork, and commitment. Respecting individual needs and differences, and reconnection and repair grievances. So I think he spent a little bit of time on this, which was nice. What do you guys think?
Yeah, he did. There was a lot on those. I'm trying to get into your outline right here where you're looking.
Oh yeah. Becky, do you have anything specific while she's looking that up?
It seemed to me kind of as he was shifting everyone around and having like the daughter move and then have the parents move closer, it seemed like one at a time he went through and was like systematically trying to specifically get to the bottom of the issue and repair it as he went. I liked that. Right.
However, he did that. I saw that, but every time he would engage individually, he still had the whole was still his goal, was to fix the whole, but he did it by going down each spoke individually.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Kimberly, do you have anything more for that one?
Well, on the respecting individual needs, I just thought he went around and he confirmed on what they were saying, and it would say back to them, so this is what you need, or this is what you're seeing. Tell me if I'm wrong. And he would say that so that every one of them felt validated.
Right.
And so he did. He connected with each one of them individually and also worked on connecting them together.
Right. And can you imagine how important that was to the mom? I don't know that sister appreciated it so much, but, mom has concerns that dad isn't quite supporting her on. And so for the therapist to say, I hear you, I hear what you're saying, that had to have been some good validation for mom. Whether mom's right or wrong, whenever we take a stand on something, it's always nice to have somebody agree with you.
Mm-hmm. And saying, I appreciate that. He
yeah.
Said that several times. When they would really express the deep feelings, he would say, I appreciate that.
Right. So he wasn't agreeing or saying they were right or wrong, but he was letting them know that he heard them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very good.
Exactly.
He
was very good.
Yeah. So let's see the
I
next.
didn't realize how good until we talked about it now.
I know. It's like, wow, he was slick.
Subtle, but
Right, which I think is the key. Because, you know, as I was watching, I just thought, okay, mom and dad, why don't you just tell your kids what you want? It's your house, it's your rules. Sit down and talk it out. But, you know, that wasn't going to work for this family, at least not at this time. So he was good. So number 6 talks about mobilize social and economic resources, recruiting extended kin, the community supports, models and mentors, building on financial security, navigate stressful work and family challenges and transactions with larger systems, and enlisting institutional instructional support. So
that was kind of a tricky one to do. You focused on a lot of the social resources I didn't see. Did you guys?
No.
So the only thing I picked up with that was the stressful work family challenge. It sounded like there was quite a few times when it was mentioned that the dad was home a lot.
Right.
But what kind of resources that would really bring in, I don't know, except for just the family trying to work around it and still create time. But
Right.
he did try to work on that.
Yeah, and I don't know that in this particular case there would be a lot of extended social connections that they would need, except to involve their son in something more than just riding skateboards all day. You know, he graduated high school. Is he going to go to college? Is he going to get a job? He can skateboard around for a little while and enjoy himself, but at some point he needs to engage. And I think that the therapist kind of talked about that briefly, you know, looking to the future, but he didn't offer up anything hard and fast. But I don't know that that was necessarily his place either, except to remind them that, hey, there's other things you could be doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have anything more on that, Becky?
No. Sorry. I'm changing a diaper here.
That's okay.
Yeah, that was another one of those points where I just kind of felt that he raised over it, you know, a little bit, which was good. Yeah.
Yeah, because they weren't asking for help in that regard. So just like the spiritual aspect, hey, this is there if you're interested in it. You know, I think he would have definitely gone down that tangent if they had opened the door. But again, that wasn't why they were there. They were there because, you know, just a difference of opinions on what he should be doing.
Yeah, he had a remarkable ability of keeping it so focused.
He did. I know. It was really good. It was good. So then that leads right into the next bullet point: clarity, clear, consistent message in words and actions. Clarify ambiguous information and truth seeking.
He did that a lot. You know, they would get an ambiguous comment, and then he would really, well, let's go into that a little bit. I'd like to know more about that. Tell me more about that.
Right.
And clarify. I have you right. This is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Is that right? And so they felt validated every time.
Right. Which I think is important because oftentimes, you know, I'll say something to my husband and he'll look at me and he'll just say, I don't understand what you're asking me. It's like, oh, yeah, I guess what my mind is thinking and what my words are saying really isn't, they're not matching up to what I really need. And I think he picked up on that right away from his family that, you know, there's kind of how this is kind of stretching it using words from our text, but kind of a double bind in regards to what mom and dad are saying. You know, dad's kind of a little more less concerned and mom's way concerned. Well, if they look at their parents as a team, then they're getting two different responses, and that's not helpful. So the therapist definitely was able to make sure his thoughts were clear.
No.
Right. Clarify theirs. I think
right.
Pull out of him how they didn't they were feeling maybe, but here it is.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. Do you have anything more for that, Becky?
I just think that he was really good at getting them to be honest. The way that he would just kind of sit there and he would, you know, bring up a point and he'd be like, anybody can talk, you know, and he would just wait, you know, and he would just start pulling more, getting more info out, you know.
Yeah. That was kind of good.
Yeah. So he kind of helped them where they were kind of lacking in their communication.
Right.
Got it.
Well, and that leads into the next point about open emotional expression. Sharing painful feelings, sadness, suffering, anger, and sharing positive feelings and interactions, the love, the appreciation, the gratitude. Because you're right, he'd say, like, anybody can talk, anybody can go next. This isn't, you know, we're not going to go down the line. Just say it. If you feel it, say it. But you're right, he was able to, I mean, he was a little direct a couple times in asking, but he was able to get them to say it out loud, which oftentimes that's the breaking point. You know, you're frustrated and you're feeling like nobody cares or understands, or your day was bad, but until you say it out loud, it's just something tumbling around in your head. And, you know, he asked Sister, what is it that bothers you? Just say it. Just, what is it that you're most concerned with? And, you know, she didn't want to say it at first, but again, she had her little attitude, and but then she's like, well, I'm just afraid for him. It's like, oh, is that it? You know, now we can move and do something with it because you said it out loud.
And the boy is more likely to, you know, the truth of your feeling, when you really get to the truth of your feeling, the boy is going to be more likely to react to the fact that she loves him, and so she's worried more than just, she's just a tattletale, she just wants the parents, you know, whatever.
Right.
So he got to that underlying issue.
Yeah, exactly. And he did it without any pain and suffering. You know, he built up a rapport with the family. And they weren't necessarily volunteering anything. You know, he was pulling a lot. But when he finally, you know, he was able to build up that trust enough that when he asked, what is your concern? Then they were willing to say, oh, you know, this is my concern. So I think it helped them feel like they would have that validation when they did share, and they wouldn't just be, you know, shoot aside. Oh, okay, well, whatever. We'll come back to that. That wasn't it at all.
Yeah. He was able to pull out of that young man too, that their boy just felt like he wasn't loved because everyone was on him.
Yeah.
And so he would leave.
Yeah.
Because and it helped that everyone would know that that was a signal that he was sad.
Right.
And everybody else just thought, no, he can't stand to be around them.
Right.
It was insightful for that family, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And something else, something I appreciated, which I'm not good at, was his ability to say, okay, hold on, we're going to come back to that. And he'd finish what the thought process he was on, and then he'd come back around to right where he said, hey, let's come back to that. I was like, wow, that's talent. Because I would need a clipboard with notes and an eraser to make sure I was staying on track.
Yeah, to remember to come back to it too.
Right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Anything else, Becky, for the emotional expression, open emotional expression that you want to add?
Yeah, I think I also. Oh, stay on my back, sweetie. I think I also like the way that that he also just kind of. They were all just kind of attacking him at first, and they're all just blaming him for everything, and he just subtly starts shifting that blame instead of, oh, he's the bad guy, you know.
Right.
I just like the way he diffused the whole thing. I don't know how else to better word it.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Because, you know, and I was actually thinking that as the family walked in and he was introducing himself. I was like, man, he doesn't know what he's getting into. You know, he's like, I would hope that the people coming in could all be on their best behavior, but that's not always the case. And And so, you know, I imagine that he probably sat there just kind of, you know, he was a man, which is not to be sexist, but he's going to be stronger than a woman, you know. And so if something bad were to happen, he probably could fend for himself. But, you know, like Kimberly said, the family came in and they kind of sat down, you know, 3 against 1. And they're ganging up on him before they even say anything. And it's like, wow, I would be afraid, I think. I would be wondering what's coming next. So I thought he was great at making it a very positive experience for the family.
Right. By the time they left, he had the parents sitting next to the boys.
Right.
So the girl was kind of off to the side. You know, that was what needed to happen, is more love and things like that went that way. So he wanted to spend time with the family, and there was no repairing.
Right.
Even after it just went.
Oh, absolutely. So this is great. That leads into the collaborative problem solving, the brainstorming, the resourcefulness, sharing decision making, negotiation, focus on goals, concrete steps, building on success. So I think he set them up very nicely to leave his office with tools to continue to progress.
Yeah. They went from reacting, you know, they were reacting to each other, and he brought them around to be proactive.
Yeah.
Okay, these are the things we're going to do. We're going to go on a date. We're going to have the brother and sister go out and have some ice cream.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about these things, and it was proactive instead of everybody just reacting in a habit.
Right. Don't you think that reacting is easier?
Oh, it needs to be our instinct.
Right. And so for him to be able to help them step back and look at what they were doing and then give them concrete things, you know, because he could very easily have just said, well, I think that you guys need to spend more time together. And he could have just left it at that. But he didn't. He made them accountable for their time together, which is positive.
Yep.
One of the things under the collaborative problem solving, the last thing is preparing for future challenges. How do you guys think, do you think that he set them up so that if they came back in a week's time or in 2 weeks' time, that they would have something that they could report on? Do you think he did a good job with that?
I thought so, because they were going to have to report, had the mom and dad been out on a date?
Yeah.
How he talking asking how that went, what was discussed, and then same with the girl.
Right.
And you know, and then also between the dad and the son, there was an outing there. They were going to need to report back on it. They had their homework.
Right. And he touched on those important relationships that, you know, in our written case studies, we're always supposed to identify the relationships that might need some special care. And he did that. Like, he did that in real life time. You know, let's get mom and dad good, and let's get the siblings good. But, you know, it's not just that. Dad and the son need to regroup. And although he didn't say it outright, mom and daughter need to relax a little.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty slick. I was like, wow, you're doing in person what we have to do in writing.
Yeah.
I wonder how much he drew from that, just from how they sat down and the places that they chose to sit down in, and then how he realized, okay, we got to get these two together, maybe the daughter out of the center of everything.
Yeah.
Trying to see if, you know, I wonder how much he knew from the beginning that he needed by the end to kind of start working on.
I bet he knew it, but from my perspective, like just now while the three of us are talking, I'm realizing the importance of that physical movement that he did. You know, get mom and dad to sit together. That's important because the kids need to see that mom and dad are united. But mom and dad were not united walking in. Dad was happy, just let him be. And Mom, just chill out. And so by pulling them together, like at church, my husband and I usually, our daughter usually sits between us just because I like to sit against the wall and she likes to sit by both of us. But, you know, when I look around and I think, man, everybody else is sitting by their spouse. And here I'm sitting with our daughter between us. I like it that way. But he, you know, he's a very experienced therapist. So I'm sure that he has played these games many, many times. But to let the family kind of vent and talk and then start repositioning, I thought was brilliant.
Oh, you broke that.
Get a family to open up and really talk about their deepest fears. That's something that, you know, you don't usually talk about your deepest fears in front of your whole family. They were able to do that.
Oh, for sure.
So on the surface, watching it, I thought, well, this is easy. But then as we talked about it, I realized, you know, that's taken some experience.
Yeah, because think about the relationships that you have had with others where you have shared personal things or somebody has shared personal things with you. It's probably been just you and another person or you and two girlfriends. But probably for me, rarely have I ever been with a husband and a wife who have shared, you know, these intimate personal problems or details. You know, usually it's girlfriends or just one-offs. And so to sit there with your whole family and have these things pulled from you, I don't know if I would even do it in front of my kids. Well, we don't have a lot that not shared, but you know, this family is hurting and they need help and they are very vulnerable when you start saying, oh, this is what I want. Because that to me, it just says, you know, I'm weak if I'm saying it because I wasn't able to take care of it myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he kind of took some of that vulnerability away. So they won't necessarily have it in the future.
Right, exactly. Which is amazing. Amazing. I want to do this with my life, but after watching this one video, I'm thinking, oh, I have so much to learn.
You know, that's so true. I didn't think that on the surface.
Yeah.
And then we talked about it. I realized, oh, this is really hard. And how really we can pet some of our kids. I'm a mom of 6 kids, and I think, gosh, you know, if I can figure out a way to make them feel validated enough to be able to express their deepest feelings and not try to talk them out of their feelings, but just validate it.
Right.
And be okay with that's where they are. What a skill.
Yeah.
And if I don't ever practice therapy, what a skill to know with your kids.
Oh, for sure.
Forever.
For sure. I'll talk to my daughter right now and she'll say, Mom, is that something you learned in your lesson today? It's like, yes, maybe. I'm just practicing.
My kids tell me to stop shrinking them all the time.
Oh, no. How old are your kids?
My oldest is 15, so I get it from my 15-year-old and my 14-year-old.
Oh my gosh. And Kimberly, what about yours?
15 and 16. Oh, mine are between the ages of 25 and 7.
Oh my gosh.
Really spread them out. So
yeah.
I have 6 years between them. And so it's like having a first family 4 times.
Oh, for sure.
That's how we did it. And how, you know, we tried to do it closer, but we couldn't. So
yeah.
They came when they came. And so we've got one 25-year-old who has a little we've got a grandbaby. And then we have our little 7-year-old in first grade.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's so funny. Well, I'm glad that.
How about yours?
So my kids, my daughter will be 16 at the end of the month. Finally, very excited. And then I've got a 27, 29, and 31-year-old who all will be having birthdays. So they all turn up to even numbers. And I have 6 grandbabies right now. and we will be blessed with 2 more in September. So
I'm coming in the same month.
2, and they're from different families, and that happened. That happened a year ago in November. Both of my daughters had babies a week apart from one another, and so this year
they're gonna have a lot of fun.
My gosh, big time. And so this year it's my daughter-in-law and one of my daughters. So it's it's neat. Families grow by leaps and bounds when the kids start, procreating. But so yeah, I have 4.
5, did you say?
4 kids and then 6 grandbabies. Yeah. So, but it's neat. We all have a child around the same age, and it's neat to hear that our kids are seeing what we are doing as a plus. It's kind of, I don't mean to be preachy, but oftentimes moms and dads can get so involved in things that don't really have a positive effect. And what I'm doing, I'm going to school, and it doesn't necessarily impact my daughter so much, except that it does because I'm in school. But she's seeing the benefit of what I'm doing, and watching this simulated therapy, it's like, he's doing so much that I think I do. Like, that's kind of interesting. But Becky, for your kids to tell you to stop shrinking, that it's just kind of funny.
It is. The younger ones haven't learned to repeat it yet, so it's funny. It's just the older 2.
They're always going to be on their toes waiting for the next thing you share with them.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, as we've gone through this particular table, now there's another table too. It talks about it's family resilience assessment and the important variables. But I think that we've kind of integrated that in our conversation. And so the 4 questions that we had was to note the trends of our findings. So my question is, did either of you see something that we haven't discussed yet? Did either of you pick up on anything that we haven't talked about?
Looking over my notes really fast. I think this went back to the belief systems, but the only thing that I really had here was that he tried to affirm the strengths. He was really searching for strengths in the family.
Right.
And trying to build on that, and found that they did love each other.
Right.
That was that they built on. They worked a lot to play together, anything like that. They didn't have a lot in common right at that time, but he tried to affirm the strengths and build on that, on their potential. Right.
Which I think was so important in validating them as individuals. Okay, so then the next thing were the observations. Were either of you surprised by the findings or the observations? Like, I personally, I wasn't necessarily surprised. I think part of that, though, is because I was literally sat there wondering the whole time, is this for real or not? It was like, because the camera never got close enough on the mom. I needed to see her close up one more time to try to decide. But the whole time, I was like, man, if they're faking this is really good acting. But at the end of the segment, were you shocked or surprised, or did you think it ended the way you kind of thought it would?
I wasn't really surprised.
I think it kind of ended the way I thought it would.
Yeah.
You guys were surprised?
Becky, what were you going to say?
I just said I wasn't really surprised.
No, it kind of, for me, it like, oh, this is a very natural transition. He heard all of them. He gave some suggestions, had them communicate with one another, and then he gave them some homework, which to me is like, wow, that's just a very natural progression.
And he couldn't put it onto them. I noticed No, he said, I don't have the answers for your family. You're the one that knows your family. I'm a stranger.
Yeah.
And so he kind of gave them authority, or what's the word I'm using? Kind of the responsibility to help themselves. I mean, I'm here to help you and things, but this is your thing.
Right. So my husband and I have this little mantra that we can't want something for our kids more than they want it. And it kind of comes into play with seminary, early morning seminary. We've never told our kids they had to go. And it's a personal thing. We want them to go, and we hope they would choose to go, but we don't hold back anything if they choose not to. But I also can't want it for them more than they want it. So, you know, I'm willing to get up at 5:30 in the morning and wake our daughter up. But, you know, after 20 minutes, I'm like, look, girlfriend, I don't have to be up doing this for you. So, you know, you need to show me that you want this, because if I want it for you more than you do, nobody's going to get anything out of it. But that's kind of what he did. He's like, look, guys, here's some tools. Let's see what you want to do with it, because this is your fix, not mine. You know, I'm just here to facilitate and show you some ideas, but you guys are the ones that have to take it and run with it.
Mm-hmm. And that's big, because they're the ones paying for it.
Yeah.
They're the ones that make, like, how bad do we want this? It's going to make them look inside themselves and say, the boy has to decide, is it worth what it takes to get in a relationship with my family again?
Right.
Am I going to have to tone it down a little in order? They all have to make some changes, and it has to come within. Those changes are hard to make.
Absolutely.
Yeah. With all of our things, it's like, are we willing to make the sacrifices in a day?
For sure.
To save this relationship. Mm-hmm.
For sure. So then, the last thing that we were to talk about was about how a treatment professional or a paraprofessional might prepare to capitalize on the opportunities to introduce or reinforce the types of resiliency factors from Walsh's article. And so I think that we pretty much have hit on these principles and the things that Walsh brings up that are important. But can you see how, I don't see how a therapist wouldn't use these. Like, and that kind of goes back to the beginning, where I think a lot of it is just intuitive. It's just kind of like, it's natural to go down that path, but I don't know if that's because the family's so important to me. Like, I see the family as the crux of everything. And when things are great, things are great. But if one thing is bad, then you need to make some adjustments. So I don't know how a therapist, especially a family therapist, could not use some of these ideas or all of them.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have any other comments about that?
I just agree.
I don't know what else would work. I'm just trying to think what else might have worked. But people need to be able to voice their deeper feelings. I think he did it the only way that I can imagine necessary.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think if they had come in more hostile or volatile, it might have changed the delivery from the therapist standpoint, but they weren't. You know, they were somewhat friendly, a little bit standoffish, but I don't know. I think Walsh's ideas are spot on. And of course, I'm just starting off in my career and my learning, and I'm sure there's lots of other schools of thought out there, except I like this. Why would I want to look for something else? Because I really like how this fits. So do you guys have anything else that you think is important to this conversation?
This has been a good conversation. Did you have anything more, Becky?
Yeah.
No, I think we covered everything pretty good in good detail.
So do you have, so Becky, you kept the notes and I've got the video. So are you comfortable kind of writing up what we talked about to submit? Is there anything you want to clarify or?
I was gonna say I could do that, or I could just type up the notes that I have and like put them in a Google Doc, and you guys could look over them before. It's up to you. Either way you want me to do it.
Yeah, I'm happy either way. I mean, if you just want to type it up and have it to submit, then you and I can send you my link, the YouTube link, and then you can submit them together. Because I do know only one of us is supposed to submit. And I mean, I can do it also. It doesn't matter, but it's just putting the link on, submitting the link with their paper. So.
Yeah, I'll have to. I wrote mine all in chicken scratch, so.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll have to type it up first anyway, so.
Yeah. Well, let me close this out, and I'll just send the link to you to your email address, and you can also open it, make sure it opens. I'm always hesitant when I'm testing things on my own computer that I did. Like, is it opening because I did it, or is it opening because it worked? But then we'll just have you. Do you mind submitting it?
Yeah. Do you want me to send a copy out before I do? Do you guys want to look over it, or do you just want me just to submit it?
I trust you.
Okay.
Luckily, the three of us kind of have very similar mindset about this, so there's nothing overly new. But yeah, I would be happy for you just to do that, and then what I don't know is if Kimberly and I will need to go in and check off that we did it. Some classes, like I had a group work once where once it was submitted, our group automatically got credit. And then in one class, everybody had to go in and say they did it, even though only one person was doing it. So Kimberly, you may want to watch that for your submission.
We'll see what happens. It said that we had to have one person submit it, but how do we know? How does she know? I guess it's just going to have our names on it. She'll have to put that together.
Right, for sure. So,
yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I went into Google. I'm on two different browsers trying to get in, and it says, please wait, and it's just waiting. I don't know if it's because my Wi-Fi is so slow, and it is. But I would think an hour would have taken care.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
But we're still waiting to get in, so I'm sorry about that.
No, I think this worked out great. Becky, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I think with the last assignment, I think all you have to do is just check that little box off, because I think with the names on, I don't remember any feedback from her with the other one of, everybody,
I agree. So, hey, before we sign off, can I ask you, have you heard back about approval for the live family that you're supposed to interview? Have you guys heard back? I haven't seen anything, and I'm just wondering, where are we going to see that she approved it?
Yeah, I haven't either. I think she's going to probably work on them over the weekend, if I had to guess, because I think we start on them. Is it next week?
I think so. Yeah. Kimberly, do you know anything?
Right there in the, how she can get feedback. I'm hoping it'll be in that feedback.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too for the assignment itself, and then she will just say yes or no. I just was wondering if you knew anything different. So, all right, great. Well, ladies, this has been fabulous. I appreciate you taking the time. Kimberly, I'm sorry it didn't work. If hopefully it does for you the next time, but I'll send you the link, and we can go from there.
Okay. Thank you guys very much. Good class.
Yeah, absolutely. This was beneficial. So great. Well, have a good day, you guys.
Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not.
I know. I know.
Oh, thank you both.
All right, you're welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
All right, bye.
Bye.